Hey, what's going on, guys? Brian Kelly here from Zombie Guitar. Here in this video, I want to talk about something that I've talked about many times in the past before, but I just want to revisit this because this is something that not a lot of people seem to realize just how simple this is, when in reality, this is so easy, all right? You can play any chord anywhere on the neck of the guitar if you know two things. Number one, if you know the notes on your low E string and on the A string. You don't even need to know all of the notes on all of 6 strings, all across the fretboard. You just need to know the low E string and the A string, and then you just need to know 4 shapes. So I know there's people out there that are like anti-caged people. They hate the cage system for whatever reason. So for the purpose of this lesson, we're not even going to call them by their cage shapes, all right? If you want to dive into my caged lessons, I'll post some links to my super detailed cage lessons. You can check those out, but we're just going to call them shapes 1, 2, 3, and 4. All right, so know the notes on your low E string and A string, and then know shapes 1, 2, 3, and 4, and then you can play any chord anywhere on the entire neck of the guitar. It's that easy. So for this lesson, we're going to play A types of chords. So you're going to need to know where the note A is on the low E string and on the A string. All right, so the note A is found right here, 5th fret of the low E string. You also have the open A string right here. That's the note A. You have an A up here on the 12th fret of the A string. You have an A here on the 17th fret of the low E string. All right, so that's the A's. Like I said, that's the first thing you need to know. You need to know your notes on the low E string and on the A string. So then the next thing you need to know is the 4 shapes. So 2 of the shapes are going to be rooted on the low E string. The other 2 shapes are going to be rooted on the A string. All right, like I said, know your notes on the low E string and on the A string, and then know these 4 shapes. You can play any chord anywhere on the entire guitar. So let's start out with this A right here, 5th fret of the low E string. So shape number 1 looks like this. You take your index finger, you put it on the note, the root note that you're trying to create the chord for, which is an A type of chord, and then you play this shape like this. All right, this is shape number 1. So when you look at each of these 4 shapes, what you want to know is where the 1, the 3, and the 5 are within the shape. You only have to do this 4 times. All right, it's going to be the exact same for the 4 shapes, no matter where you happen to play these shapes at. You can move these shapes around anywhere: A chord, B chord, C sharp chord, D chord, whatever. The location of the 1, 3, and the 5 is going to be the same no matter what chord you're playing. It's completely dependent on the shape. All right, so this is shape number 1. Your 1, 3, and 5 are located here. 1, 5, 1, 3, 5, 1. So know that. So all that it takes to create a major chord is a 1, 3, and a 5. So you don't have to play this shape in full. You can if you want, but there's going to be multiple instances of the 1, 3, and the 5 here. So if you want, this is an A major chord. If you want to just play the high 4 strings, you still have the 1, 3, and the 5 there. You're still playing an A major chord. If you just want to play if you want to eliminate the high E string, you're still playing an A major chord. So that's an A major chord too. You just need to get the 1, 3, and the 5 in there if you want to play an A major chord. So knowing this information about where the 1, 3, and the 5 are, you can make manipulations to it to create other chords. So to make a minor chord, you have to know where the 3 is and then lower that by 1/2 step, which results in what is known as a flat 3 or a minor third. So going back, looking at your intervals, your 1, 3, and your 5, there's only one instance of where the 3 is in this particular shape. It's right here on the G string. So instead of playing the 3, you just lower that by 1/2 step. You can do so by lifting up your middle finger, and then now you have an A minor chord. So that's an A minor chord. So again, you don't have to play all 6 strings if you don't want. You just have to get the 1, the flat 3, and the 5 in there. So here's a 1, here's that flat 3, here's that 5, and we'll put the 1 in here again. 2 instances of the 1. So this is an A minor chord as well. All right, so that's just the 1 shape. So we have an A major chord and an A minor chord, and you can play it in a couple different variations using all 6 strings or not using all 6 strings, whatever you want to do. All right, so now we're going to look at the second shape. All right, so the second shape also has that same exact starting point because, as I said, 2 of the shapes have their root on the low E string and the other 2 shapes have their root on the A string. So for this single note right here, the single note A, we can form 2 different shapes. We already looked at the first one. The second one looks like this. So instead of putting your first finger on the note A, put your third finger on the note A. So right there, shape number 2 looks like this. It's hard to play if you play it in full, but like I said previously, you do not have to play these shapes in full. You just have to see the outline of the notes that make up the chord, and then in order to play a major chord, you just play the 1, 3, and the 5. Or to play a minor chord, you just take that 3, lower it by 1/2 step, and then you have yourself a minor chord. So let's look at where the 1, 3, and the 5 are in this shape. So you have a 1, a 3, 5, 1, 3, 5, and 1. So my favorite way to make use out of this chord shape is to just kind of focus on these 3 notes, the notes that are on the D, G, and B strings, because you have your 1 here, you have your 3 here, and you have your 5 here. So right there, that's an A major chord. You probably already know that chord. That's one of the first open chords you learn as a beginner, but we're looking at it kind of from a different perspective. We're looking at this from a movable shape perspective. All right. So you have your 1, 3, and your 5. You could even throw in your 1 up here if you want. If you wanted to make this into a minor chord, you just figure out where your 3 is. You'll lower that by 1/2 step. So you have your 1, you have your 5. So take that 3, lower that by 1/2 steps. So you have an A minor like this. All right, you could take your 1, 3, and 5 here. This is an A major chord. You could lower that 3rd by 1/2 step. Now you have yourself an A minor chord. All right, so a bunch of different ways to play A major chords or A minor chords using just that shape. You could come up here because this is a movable shape. So you can start on this A if you want. You put your 3rd finger on that A, locate the outline of the shape, which in its full 6-string form is very hard to play. But again, just focus on the 3 strings here. So that's an A, that's an A, where this is an A minor, this is an A major, this is an A minor. All right, we're still just focusing on shape number 2 here. Yeah, I really appreciate you checking out my video. If you want to check out some more of my stuff, check out my Patreon page. On my Patreon page, I make videos every single week in direct response to people's questions. So anyone that's a member of Patreon is free to message me and say, hey, can you make a video on this specific topic? I have this specific problem. I would love if you would make a video for it, and I'll do it for you. I don't have any tiers on Patreon. It's just one single tier. Everyone that's a member of Patreon gets access to all the videos, old videos, new videos, and you're free to message me and I will make videos for you. I love interacting with people that follow my stuff, and I love answering people's questions. That's what my Patreon's all about. So check it out. Let's get back to the lesson. All right, so let's look at shape number 3 now. So shape number 3 has its root on the A string. So we're going to use this A right here on the 12th fret. That's the note A. So shape number 3 looks like this. And we're just going to go ahead and locate the 1, 3, and the 5 within the shape. So you have a 1, a 5, a 1, a 3, and a 5. So again, you don't have to play the shape in full. So you have your 1, 3, and 5 up here. So this would be an A major chord. And of course, you can make that into an A minor chord. Just take the 3rd, lower it by 1/2 step, get the flat 3. So 1, flat 3, and 5, that's your A minor chord. So then you have shape number 4, and shape number 4 is also rooted on the A string. So we're going to use that same A that we just did right there, 12th fret. That's the note A. And instead of locating the shape with your index finger, locate it with your pinky finger. So put your pinky right there, and this shape is going to look like this. So this is shape number 4. So that's shape number 4 right there. So locating your intervals, you have a 1, 3, 5, 1, 3. So there's a bunch of different ways you could, just, play either a major A chord or an A minor chord. So here's an A major chord like this. Just those 3 strings, that's an A major chord. You could play the high 3 strings. So here's a 1, a 3, and a 5. So this is an A major chord. All right, so a couple ways to play a minor chord. Again, you could locate your 3s. So here's a 1. Here's a 3. Lower that by 1/2 step. Then you have your 5, so this would be an A minor chord. Or you could do the same thing with the higher 3 strings. You have a 1, a 3, and a 5. The third on the high E string could be lowered by 1/2 step to make it a flat third. So this is an A minor chord. Alright, so that's shape number 4 right there. So just with the information that we have so far, just locating the root note for whatever chord you're trying to play on the low E string and on the A string, and then applying these 4 shapes, you can play major and minor chords anywhere on the entire neck of the guitar. So just for A rooted chords, you can play A major chords, A minor chords right here. You could play A major, A minor chords right here, right here, right here. And then by the time you're up to the 17th fret, that's the same shapes as down here as the 5th fret. Everything's just an octave higher, but the shapes are still the same. So you can keep going up until you run out of frets, you know? So every single location of the fretboard, you can play A major chords and A minor chords. You can do the same thing with B chords. You know, here's a B right here, 7th fret of the low E string. Here's a B, 14th fret of the A string. Here's a B, 19th fret of the low E string. You could play C chords. You could play D chords. You could play C sharp chords, B flat chords, whatever. There's 12 notes. Just know your notes on the low E string and on the A string. Any major chord, any minor chord, anywhere on the neck of the guitar. And this isn't just limited to major and minor chords either. You can play any chord you want. You can play major, minor, 7th, major 7th, minor 7th, 11th chords, 9th chords, 13th chords, diminished, augmented, sus2, sus4. It doesn't matter. You can play any chord. You can use any one of these 4 starting shapes. You can locate your starting intervals, your 1, 3, and your 5. And then knowing the rules, the basic rules of chord construction, you can apply the basic rules of chord construction, and you can make these manipulations into any chord that you want. Just like we took a major chord and we made a slight manipulation and turned it into a minor chord by lowering the third, you can create any kind of chord, all right? So I'm not going to get deep into the rules of chord construction here. I've done lessons on that before. I'll post links to that as well if you want to check those out. But I'll just give you a couple examples. I'm just going to use one single shape to start with. I'm just going to make a few manipulations, just showing you how this process works. And then you can kind of come up with your own chord shapes and stuff like that. So let's start with this shape right here. This would be the 4th shape that we looked at right here. So this is where you locate your root on the A string using your pinky. So right there's the note A, 12th fret. So you have your 1, 3, 5, 1, 3. All right, so with that starting shape, let's say we want to play a major 7th chord. So an A major 7th chord is the goal that we're trying to do. So a couple things we need to know. What is a major 7th chord? How do you make that up? That's basic rules of chord construction, all right? So a major 7th chord is a 1, a 3, a 5, and a 7. So using our starting shape, we already know where the 1, 3, and the 5 are. So now we just have to figure out where the 7th goes. So a 7, there's a 7, and then there's a flat 7. You're going to see one of those two things in most 7th types of chords. So a 7 is always found 1/2 step below the 1. So anywhere where you have a 1 at, you're going to have a 7 right before it, 1 fret lower than it. The other rules of chord construction tell you that you can always drop the 1 or the 5 if you need to. So when it comes to complex chords, you know, when you get into like 11th chords and 13th chords, it's going to be very difficult to include all of the intervals that make up the chord. Basic rules of chord construction tell you that if you need to, you can drop the 1 or the 5. The reason you can do that is because these chords are typically going to be used in like a situation where you're playing with a live band. So there's going to be a bass player, a drummer, a keyboardist, a singer, and stuff like that. The bass player, the rhythm section is usually going to be implying the fact that this is an A type of chord. So even if you go and you drop the A, drop the root, drop the 1, you can still, in the context of the music that you're playing at, as long as you get the rest of the notes in there, then it's still going to sound fine. The most important intervals in any chord, in any extended chord, are always going to be the 3rd and the 7th. All right? So as long as you have your 3rd and your 7th in there, you're fine. So let me just show you what I mean. So using this starting shape here, we're just going to start out by focusing on just the high 3 strings. So you have your 1, you have your 3, you have your 5. All right, so we want to get that 7 in there as well. So a 7 is always found 1/2 step below the 1. So on the B string, there's your 1. 1/2 step below it is the 7. So this is a A major 7 chord. It just doesn't have the root in there. All right, so you have your 7, you have your 3, and you have your 5. The important intervals are the 3 and the 7. Basic rules of chord construction tell you that you can drop the 1 if necessary. So this is an A major 7 chord just like that. If you want to make this into a dominant 7 chord, 1, 3, 5, flat 7. All right, so a flat 7 interval is always found one whole step below the 1. And then the rest of the rules of chord construction apply. So you can drop the 1 if you need to, you can drop the 5 if you need to. In this case, we're going to leave the 3 in there, we're going to leave the 5 in there, it just doesn't have the 1 in there anymore. But this is still fine, this still counts as an A dominant 7 chord. All right, so A major chord, A major 7 chord, A dominant 7 chord. Everything's starting from this basic starting shape, which we're labeling as shape number 4. All right, so you can make all the manipulations you want to these shapes. Just know what the chord formula is. Know the intervals in your starting shape, whichever starting shape you're starting with, and then apply the chord formula. That's all there is to it. All right. Basic rules of chord construction always apply. Like I said, I have some more lessons on that kind of stuff. If you want to check those out, I'll post links to it. But that's pretty much it. That's going to do it for this video. Thank you guys for watching. See you next time.